Christ's right to the Davidic throne. Thank you. And this was originally this was an article in a Messianic Jewish periodical, and I've had it for years and years. I used to listen to their program on the radio where I used to work. The situation was that we could listen to a radio on the assembly line as long as we had earphones. And so for a while, one of my co-workers and I became somewhat friends, at least work friends. And he brought in a Y jack, and he would have earphones and I had earphones. And we listened to these stories that were being read on the radio. And just, secular stories. And so, but then there were times I wanted to just listen to my own, so I listened to religious radio, as I call it, in the morning throughout the afternoon. One of them was the Christian Jew Hour. So I subscribed to their newsletters, and I was getting their newsletter every month. And one of the articles years ago, this is back in the 70s, one of the articles was this title, Christ's Right to the Davidic Throne. Well, I still have that newspaper. I kept all those newsletters. And I took off on that idea, and I came up with my own outline. The only thing I kept from him, and I'll let you know when we get to that part, were the two requirements. The rest of it is just my own research. So let's take a look at this. And Andrew, we're going to give you the introduction, just kind of a short introduction, about 3 or 4 paragraphs there. And we'll let you read all the way through it, and then maybe we'll stop and spot check a couple of these scriptures along the way.
Okay. You may recall that Israel asked for a king to reign over them. God allowed this to happen, which resulted in the choosing of Saul as Israel's first king. Saul was from the tribe of Benjamin. Saul sinned, however, and was not allowed to continue to be Israel's king. God had someone else in mind who was from the tribe of Judah. You may recall the prophecy made by Jacob on his deathbed concerning his son Judah. He prophesied that from the tribe of Judah a lawgiver would come, and that the scepter, rulership, authority would not depart from that tribe. Thus, to fulfill this prophecy, God replaced Saul with a man from the tribe of Judah, and that was David. God loved David and made a promise to him that no matter what happened, God would make sure that David would always have a descendant to remain on the Davidic throne. So strong of a promise was this that the Lord used the perpetual strength and power of the sun and moon as a witness of divine fulfillment of this promise. It sounds like another covenant, doesn't it?
It sure does. All right. So we're going to be looking at his right. In our day and age, you mentioned not being able to say Christmas. In our day and age, Jesus is under attack. His person, his character. Christmas, everything's under attack relative to that. And it's coming down to where people are just caving into this political correctness pressure. Whole countries are caving in, societies, and they're just buckling to this insane, ridiculous, anti-Christian pressure. Where did this come from? It wasn't so long ago that you can go to church and society kind of seemed like they maybe didn't revere Jesus at large, but they didn't look down upon those who did. Now there's just hatred is growing for the Bible, for Jesus. It's not just okay, live and let live. It's like, I'm coming after you. Atheists are getting more bold. Billboards, even our Mountain Line bus has. We're watching news, and this atheist girl and her group had a slogan or something. Remember seeing that on one of our buses?
Yeah, it's something like, if you don't believe in God,
give us a call or something.
You're not alone. They want to make sure that during the holidays that people like that have some place to call.
Yeah.
Well, if they don't believe in God, why do they care about the holidays?
Why do they care? Yeah, and why do they care about us?
Right.
It's basically their attempt to evangelize or convert us back over. Okay. In fact, I read where this one professor, I forget what school he was from, but he used his time, which is government time, right? He's getting paid by the government, to dissuade his students from Christ, to basically try to evangelize them away, you know. So, you know, when we want to evangelize, it's on our own nickel. It's our own time, isn't it? Okay? But he's using the government. So, we see, though, that Christ has a right, and we see that it starts with the tribe of Judah. So let's go to that passage there that Andrew just read in the second paragraph, Genesis 49. The road slick coming in.
No, they were
That's
good.
pretty good.
They were good.
Oh, no, I'm gonna be here, second service, she said.
Oh, second service, okay. All right, so Genesis 49, 8 through 12. And, no, we'll give that to you. Well, let's read verse 1, please, and then 1 and 2, and then skip on down to 8.
Okay. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. Verse 8. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise, thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies, thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp, from the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he crouched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Binding is full unto the vine, and his ass is colt to the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with the wine, and his teeth white with milk.
All right. So he looked at each son and gave an analogy or a futuristic view of where their descendants would land. So he comes to Judah, and he has all that to say about Judah. And notice it says in verse 8, Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. I remember the story of Joseph in one of his visions, and Joseph was a type of Jesus. And one of his visions, he said, and he told his brothers this, well, that really got him mad, as if they didn't like him already, but he just made it worse. He said, I had this crazy dream, and he said the sun and the moon bowed down and worshiped. And basically, they were the ones bowing down to him, as it turns out. They were bowing to him. Well, that really made him upset. And so we find here a reference to praises would be to Judah. And then in particular, specifically, Shiloh, until Shiloh come. And so that's what we're talking about today, is this tribe of Judah, and one in particular who came from the tribe of Judah. Well, two, actually, David and then Jesus. So in our flow, we got David, and as Andrew said, David, and we're going to see this results in the Davidic covenant. Okay, and then we're going to see that we have Mary, okay, and then we have Yeshua, Jesus. And in fact, I have a chart that I didn't bring it, but I have a chart that depicts all this as well. All right, so there's the groundwork in the introduction. And then to recap the last couple of paragraphs, and we might even just look at this in Jeremiah 31. Thus, to fulfill this prophecy, God replaced Saul with a man from the tribe of Judah, David, God loved David, made a promise to him that no matter what happened, God would make sure that David would always have a descendant to remain on the Davidic throne. Okay? So, but I want to look at the last paragraph, and Andrew will have you read this if you wouldn't mind. Jeremiah 31, 35 through 37. So strong of a promise was this, but the Lord used the perpetual strength and power of the sun and moon as a witness of divine fulfillment. That's amazing when he reaches out to the stellar regions and says, you look at the sun and the moon, that's how strong my promise is going to be. So Jeremiah 31, 35. 31, 35.
Want me to read that?
Please,
Thus says the Lord, who gives the sun for a light by day, the ordinances of the moon and the stars for a light by night, who disturbs the sea and its waves roar. The Lord of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, says the Lord, then the seed of Israel shall also cease from being a nation before me forever. Thus says the Lord, if heaven above can be measured and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, says the Lord.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, to back up his promise, he used the power and strength of the sun, and of course then the reflected light of the moon. All right. So we have the promise enacted. We have the prophecy of Judah stated, okay, and then the strength of that prophecy sealed with the sun and the moon. Okay. So let's go on a little bit further. It all points to Messiah. Right, Sister Linda? There you go. We'll give that one to you.
Okay, all pointing to the Messiah. What God had in mind was to ultimately raise up a certain king, a righteous branch of the seed of David, who would ultimately sit upon David's throne and rule in righteousness. Yet David had quite a number of sons, through which of his sons would the Lord continue the reign of the kings over Israel.
Let's just stop right there. David had a number of sons, right? Which son was going to fulfill this promise?
Physical sons or
Physical sons.
Solomon?
One would think, wouldn't one?
Adonijah?
The last one, so?
Hmm?
The last one?
Mm-hmm. Well, but he had several wives, right? Or concubines, okay? So we have to figure out which wife is going to be chosen, and then which son of that wife is chosen, okay? All right, let's keep reading. See, Andrew's, the gears are just like, they're just stripping out there, okay? All right, so, as Linda read, yet David had quite a number of sons, okay? Well, let's just take a look at that list there in 1 Chronicles 3. Probably should have had some of these typed out.
I think
Samuel
when we
King's
hear it,
Chronicles.
we're gonna go, oh yeah.
Well, yeah.
1 Chronicles 3. Incidentally, I wrote to that Christian Jew Foundation, I wrote to the head, wrote him a letter. This was all way before internet, no email, none of that was invented. Actually wrote him a letter, because he made some statements in one of his radio programs about the Universal Church. And so I actually wrote him a letter. Charles Hulf was his name. And I said, you know, I really enjoy your program and everything, but I disagree with your understanding of the church. It's, you know, you have a universal church concept, as do, you know, most Protestants, or all Protestants. So he wrote back and said they appreciate your comments, but yeah, I disagree. So he gave me his reasons and all that stuff. I kept listening to the show. All right, so 1 Chronicles 3, 1 through 9. And Julie, we'll give you that one, 3, 1 through 9.
I know I have Sarah's Old English.
Oh, you do,
Oh, I
okay.
have all those names.
Yep.
We'll let you muddle through it.
Now, let's see, 1 through 9. Now these were the sons of David, which were born unto him in Hebron.
Hebron?
Hebron. Oh boy. The firstborn,
Eminem.
it's not Sarah read it. She's,
Go ahead, Sarah.
it's her Bible.
Well, I can't probably do better. Firstborn Amnon of Eminium,
There you go, that's good
the
enough.
Jezreelites. The second, Daniel of Abigail the Carmelites. The third, Absalom Joslin, the son of Malachi, the daughter of Tamalai, king of Geshur, the fourth Adonijah, the son of
That's the one Andrew mentioned,
Adonijah.
Adonijah, yeah.
Adonijah, the son of Haggith, the fifth Zephaniah of Abida, the sixth Hiram by Eglah his wife. These six were born unto him in Hebron, and there he reigned 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years. And these were born unto him in Jerusalem, Shemiah and Shoab and Nathan and Solomon, four of Bathsheba, the daughter of Amamiel.
Okay, does that sound familiar?
No.
Bathsheba?
Nathan.
Then Ibar also, and Ishmaelma, and Epiphalith, and Noah, and Naphith, and
Doing good.
and Jaspha, and Elishama, and Elilda, and Eliphtith, 9. These were all the sons of David, beside the sons of the concubines, and Tamar their sister.
Aren't you glad there was just those few?
Tamar rings a bell too.
Yeah. I just try to roll over them real quick, no one
Yeah,
notices.
that's what you just whispered, you know, I
Yeah.
don't remember half these
Yeah.
names.
All right. They are tough, they are tough. When I listen to people who are from the Middle East, and I hear them pronounce some of these names, or even the books of the Bible, we pronounce them differently. You ever notice that?
There's certain syllables we can't make,
Yeah,
or at least not used to make.
yeah, right, the syllables,
Inflections.
inflections, how they're pronouncing their vowels, and things like this.
Where the emphasis too.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So one's like, how would you say Ibhar?
I saw it, which one, where verse was that?
The first word, name on 6.
On verse 6?
Yeah.
Ibar,
Ibar,
yeah.
Ibhar.
And then at times, it doesn't really bear out in English, but then they have the gutturals, you know, so you don't know where to put that in there. Usually that's like a CH, yeah. There was one I thought that might be something like that. Where was it?
Again, in English, we don't have a huh.
No, Chagith. That might be one up there in verse 2. Yeah, Chagith, yeah.
You know, something interesting about languages that I learned. An interesting study, somebody timed, said, okay, here's one sentence,
Uh-huh.
and they gave it to somebody who speak German, somebody who speak French, somebody who speak English, and somebody who spoke like Chinese, and somebody who spoke like Taiwanese, and like all these different languages. And pretty much, the time it took them to start the sentence to end the sentence was within just a half a second.
Wow.
So really, it's like, even though they're different languages,
Uh-huh.
being able to say that, the same sentence,
Yeah.
was about the same amount of time.
There's
It was
a,
interesting.
there's
Yeah.
a study conducted too that regardless of language, all our, like our body signals are for, you know, if you're motioning somebody to do something, that's all the same.
But body
throughout the
language
world.
is universal.
Yeah, body
Mhm.
language,
Uh-huh.
conscious and unconscious.
Interesting. Body language is similar, yeah, that's true, yeah. Yeah. Wow. Now, if you gave the script to if you gave the Portuguese to the Frenchman, he would stumble all over, wouldn't he? Oh, yeah, that's interesting. All right, so what do we get from this? We get that number 1, the names are hard to pronounce. Good. And number 2, David was a busy fellow. Okay. All right. So, all point to the Messiah. David had a whole slew of sons. But, as Linda read, through which of these sons would the Lord continue the reign of the kings over Israel? That's the question. It was revealed to David before he went to rest with his fathers that his last-born son of Bathsheba, Solomon, would be appointed as successor to the throne. Okay? Remember Bathsheba and Solomon conspired? They cooked up this little scheme. She would come in, and so someone else came in, I think, I forget who it was. Anyway, they cooked up this scheme, and so David caught on right away for Solomon to be on the throne. So he was appointed, sure enough, he was appointed. Okay, but there's a lot of turf between Solomon and the Messiah. Okay, and we're going to discover that turf and what that meant. All right. A change in plans? No, there was a change in plans.
It appeared that the descendants of David's son Solomon would eventually produce Israel's promised deliverer, Messiah. But as we shall see, something happened that caused God to discontinue Solomon's seed line from ruling as the divinely chosen line.
Let's stop right there. Who has never heard of this? That something happened in Solomon's line. So we all thought that Solomon was produced the Messiah. No, it was his line. Okay, we all thought of that? Did we all think like it? Okay. See Marlene going, yeah. So you thought that Jesus came through Solomon's line? Okay, sure, makes sense. He was the wisest king. He was appointed. He was next in line after David. Sure. Okay, but something happened, and guess who's going to tell us?
No.
No.
What had happened was that the successive kings from Solomon's line became wicked in the sight of God, especially King Manasseh. They led Judah to commit spiritual adultery, and God finally cursed Solomon's seed line, disallowing that seed line from ultimately producing the promised son of David.
Okay, so we just read a whole bunch of his sons. Okay, Solomon, of course, being one of them. So if we come down through a certain lineage, and God stops that lineage, then we have to backtrack. We have to go back. It's kind of like a fork in the road. Okay, you decide which fork to take. Lo and behold, you go 3 miles, and now it's a dead end, or there's a log in the way. And now you got to do what? Go all the way back to that fork and take the other fork. Okay, so this is exactly what happened. Okay, there was a roadblock, a change from Solomon's line, so we have to go all the way back to choose another son.
And that's because of man's sin, right?
Yes, yeah, we're gonna find out who. Okay, well, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say funny, but that's not the right word, but God's foreknowledge, knowing what was gonna happen, he always provides. that just amazes me.
Always has a backup.
Always.
Yeah, which with God, it's not really a backup,
Right.
right? Right?
Yeah.
With us, it appears like a backup plan, like Adam and Eve's sins. Oh, God had this backup plan. Well, I think it was the plan all along, don't you? Yeah.
I think about, I don't know, my mind's on this creation study, but God's backup plan was the earth that we live in now. No, not really. You know, it's like when the earth resettled from the flood and all that, it's like, there was a reason why trees were growing here and animals grew there. God made his earth beautiful again. You know, yeah, we have winter, I don't think we did before. But at the same time, you know, God had a plan already in place, knowing that man would take this route. Okay, well, then this is gonna happen because of that. It's not like he forced anything. He didn't force anybody. He didn't force Solomon's line to be wicked and Manasseh and all that. He just knows that's gonna happen, so he's got a plan in place. I think that's true for our lives too.
Yeah.
You know, God always provides that way, even though we may not choose him in every circumstance. He's got a way for us to get back
Yes.
into that.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, in this channeling and guiding and providential leading, he uses bad decisions and mistakes to get us kind of through the maze. You know, we've all done, Asher, you've done those mazes where you pick up your pencil, and you start going this way, oh, gotta go back, oh, okay. You finally get to the other side, but you've hit all these little roadblocks along the way. And so God uses that to help, you know, stop our momentum in that direction. Let's back up, let's go over here then. Okay, so he uses all of that. All right, so the change in plans. We see that in this tribe of Judah, what Jacob was saying about Judah, boy, it sounded so wonderful and lofty, you know. And it was. Nothing wrong with the tribe as far as the plans for this tribe. But along the way, unfortunately, the tribe is made up of men, of people. And not all of them play nicely, and which is what we are finding out. Okay? But as stated, God has a plan to still stay with Judah and to still keep his promises backed up by the sun and the moon. Just find a different way to get there. Right? Just find a different way to keep it. Right? All right, we'll keep reading, please.
One such wicked king of Judah, Jehoiakim, reigned during the time when Egypt controlled Palestine. In fact, Jehoiakim, who was descendant of Solomon, was appointed king over Judah by Pharaoh. He reigned for a total period of 11 years, but only 8 of those years were under Egyptian dominion. The remaining 3 years were under Babylonian authority when Babylon's armies chased out the Egyptians and took control of Palestine.
You know, this conflict or this struggle for the Holy Lands isn't new. It goes way back. I mean, these other surrounding nations have served in this area for off and on again for all this time. And so the Egyptians for the king of the south, then you've got the kings of the east. Of course, you got Persia. And you got Babylon. These others. Even the king of the north. Syria came down. Swept down from the north. So you see this conflict going on all the time. Okay.
Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, however, chose not to replace Pharaoh's puppet king, King Jehoiakim, but rather allowed him to continue rule over Jerusalem. But for some reason, Jehoiakim did not get along with the Babylonians as well as he had with the Egyptians, and after 3 years of Babylonian dominion, decided to rebel against Nebuchadnezzar's authority.
Okay. And we'll give that last one too.
Nebuchadnezzar therefore dethroned Jehoiakim, deporting him to Babylon, where he died. Along with Jehoiakim, several others of the royal family were likewise deported, along with royal officers and men who had been very knowledgeable in various fields of study. All were immigrated to Babylon. In the book of Daniel, we see the arrival of many of these captives, including such prominent Jews as Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah.
Mm-hmm. Those are their Hebrew names. Okay.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yes. All right.
It was David or Daniel was Belshazzar.
Yeah. So when we open up Daniel, we see them. Here they come. The ones that from Jerusalem and Judea, we see them heading on out. Okay, as captives. Okay. On the other side, we see them arriving in Babylon. Okay, into the court of the king. Okay. All right. So they saved, and this didn't happen all at once. This was over waves of, they keep trying to put a Jewish king on the throne who will work with their captives, with their captor, and it worked for a while. But then they just got tired of the rule, and so they would rebel until finally. And then each time they would come in and try, and set up a new puppet ruler, they'd take as long as we're here, made a long trip, might just go raid the temple again, so they take stuff out of the temple, gold and artifacts and stuff, carry it with them. They grab a few Jews of prominence, and tell them, I think we could use you, you're a good scientist, kind of like what Andrew was telling me what we did with World War II. Okay, you want to fill us in on that one?
Operation Paperclip, America had to get to Germany's scientists before Russia did. That's a whole different subject.
Okay.
But we see that, Jerusalem was not the first, that wasn't the first time. With Herod, he's a puppet ruler too.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Rome didn't really want to, Herod was Jewish,
Mhm.
at least half.
He's part Jew, yeah.
And so they just kind of left him in place and said, all right, you're the king of this land. And
Uh-huh.
they didn't put a Roman up, there was further up the line.
Yeah.
But they didn't really want to.
Yeah.
They didn't really want to rule over the Jews directly. They wanted somebody like them to rule over them. And I don't know if that's common in history or not. But it definitely was in the Promised Land.
Well, one thing that, if you study the Eastern culture, Eastern people, they can be pretty hot-headed, pretty volatile. And I don't get, I was gonna say I get a kick out of it, I don't. But it does have a little bit of humor if you're looking at it from a certain perspective, that when they take photos of the protesters and such in the Middle East, you know, Egypt or wherever, to pick a country, doesn't matter, except for Israel, their faces are all contorted, their mouths are open, and they, you know, have this scowl, and you know, it's just take a snapshot of them. You know, the whole crowd is that way. You know, they're just very explosive type of people. You know, and so would you wanna be a Roman governor over, you know, immediately over those people? You know, with that type of anything could happen any moment. So yeah, they had half some Jew, someone keeping placated.
You kinda get the idea Pilate didn't wanna have anything to do with it.
No, that's a good point, yeah, very good point.
Yeah, and they were screaming and hollering.
Yeah. There's Isaiah 19, that there'd be what kind of a spirit did Isaiah prophesy against Egypt? Some kind of, I guess what it boils down to is kind of a demonic spirit would overcome Egypt. I was watching this video, I didn't watch it very long, maybe 2 seconds, or maybe 3 or 4 seconds, because it was so gross. But I saw the demonic spirit, you know, among some of the people in Egypt, what they were doing to a couple of corpses. And so I saw that, and so everything's just happening right on cue, okay? All right, so things grew worse, however, for Judah. Marlene, we're gonna give you that one.
After removing Jehoiakim from being king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar replaced him with Jehoiakim's son Jehoiakim. Various forms of Jehoiakim's name are Coniah and Jeconiah. However, Jehoiakim, like his father, also rebelled against the Babylonian rule, and again Nebuchadnezzar had to send in his troops to restore law and order. And also like his father, King Jehoiakim was likewise sent to faraway Babylon, while taking control of Jerusalem. Nebuchadnezzar's army stole many of the gold furnishings and vessels from the temple which was at Jerusalem, and carried them all off to Babylon. And again, a second wave of prominent Jews were likewise taken captive and carried off to Babylon.
Right, so now we have a new character introduced, okay? So we have Jehoiakim's son, Jehoiachin, okay?
Sounds
So now-
Japanese. Sounds Japanese.
Yeah, oh, Jehoiachin. Also referred to as Coniah, probably more like Coniah. Remember, their eyes are always E, like every other language, okay? We're the crazy ones that have the I as a I, okay? I suppose also E, can't think of a word right now, but, or Jeconiah, okay? However, okay, so we're gonna find out what happened there, all right? So Rachel will give you that other paragraph.
Nebuchadnezzar then replaced Jehoiachin with another descendant of Solomon, a man named Maney, who was Jehoiachin's uncle, and made him to be king over Jerusalem. In doing so, however, Nebuchadnezzar changed Maney's name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah, a descendant of King Solomon, reigned for 11 years.
All right, so maybe that would help. Maybe if we change his name, okay, maybe that'll help the situation. You know, he'll be kind of on our side. We'll give him a whole new makeover, a whole new identity, and he'll be one of us, one of the good old boys. Well, that didn't work either. Didn't seem to work, okay? Because at heart, he's still Jewish, okay? And only wanted to put up with that, you know, dominance for so long, okay? So then he too rebelled, and so, and he's a descendant of Solomon, okay? Reigned for 11 years.
But after some time, he too grew tired of Babylonian dominance over Judah, and sought to rebel against Nebuchadnezzar. However, God sent Jeremiah to warn Zedekiah not to rebel, but to no avail. As a result, King Nebuchadnezzar had to send his troops into Jerusalem once again, But this time it would be to not only capture, but to burn the wall and gates of the city and to destroy their holy temple.
Alright, okay. It's just getting worse. Because, you know, look, we keep supplying you, or we keep letting you rule yourself. Okay, I mean, there's such a distance between us. You know, we're letting you kind of have your own nation and your own rule. Sure, you know, you gotta pay us tribute and, you know, all that stuff. But you're not playing very nicely. So that would bring them in again. And then while they're there, they help themselves to, you know, looting and pillaging. Okay? It's kind of an early Ferguson. No, that's something else. Anyway. So they just, God said, okay, that's it. So I'm going to allow them to burn the walls and destroy the temple. So God himself had enough. So it's just getting worse with his people. Okay. Again, this special tribe that was singled out for all the brethren to eventually praise. Okay? Things aren't looking too good for this tribe right now. Okay, and the people it's producing. Right. Not every line, but I guess by and large. All right. All right. Julie, you're not going to get out of reading here.
Sarah was my backup plan.
Yeah, right. She was the backup.
So God had had enough. It was at this time in Judah's bleak history that God had had enough of Judah's wicked succession of kings, all coming from the family line of Solomon. Why would he allow them to continue? All they did was choose to rebel against him, king after king after king. So what did the Lord do about it? He sent his prophet Jeremiah to King
Zedekiah, that's his new name now, right?
Okay, Zedekiah, right, to tell the king that God was about to end the reign of the kings of Judah. God did reveal to Zedekiah, however, that he would be willing to give King Zedekiah and the house of David one more opportunity to repent and to serve him, except for the fact that the Lord knew that Zedekiah's heart was not sincere and that he would not repent and turn to the Lord. But again, God, of course, gives him the opportunity.
Gives him the way out.
Yeah.
He's waited to retreat.
Based upon this knowledge, God had therefore made up his mind not to continue the kingly line through the seed of Solomon. He was instead pronouncing a curse upon them, a curse that would prohibit Solomon's descendants from ever producing a promised Christ.
Oh my, it got that bad. Got that bad. So, it's over, Solomon. You're lying. You're not going to go all the way down to, you know, the New Testament, and produce the Messiah. So Jeconiah, because of their continued and ever growing, you know, level of sinfulness, God just washed his hands of the Solomon line. Okay. All right. So let's just read Jeremiah 22. Go over there. This is a pivotal verse. This changed everything. 24 through 30. I'll just read that real quick here. So Jeremiah 22, 24 through 30. I wonder if we should have it read in the New King James though. Maybe that'd help a little bit. Who's got the New King James translation that they'd like to read verses 24 through 30? Okay.
Jeremiah what?
22, chapter 22.
24 through 30.
Yes, please.
As I live, saith the Lord, through Konah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, where the signet of my right hand, that I would pluck you off. And I will give you unto the hand of those who seek your life, and into the hand of those who seek your fear, in the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and the hand of the Chaldeans. So I will cast you out, and your mother who bore you, into another country, where you were not born, and there you shall die. But to the land to where they desire to return, there shall be no return. Is this man Konah a despise broken idol? Is he a vessel which in which is no pleasure? Why are they cast out, he and his descendants, and cast into land which they do not know? O earth, 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 hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, write this man down as childless, a man who shall not prosper in his days, for none of his descendants shall prosper, sitting on the throne of David and ruling any more in Judah.
Alright, so his lineage has been cut off. Okay? Alright, so we'll stop right there. And next time we'll probably finish this up. Okay?
That was in shock that we got that far.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I'm proud.
Hey, there you go. Nice. Well, we can slow it up if you want.
Thought maybe you'd be surprised that we were on to something else.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go. Shock number one, yes.
Well, yeah, I think I left you with a page and a half still.
Yes, yes. I'm putting an X right here.